And now from our studios in downtown Winnipeg, it's time for 107 Live.
This weekend, Winnipeg's choral group Without Fear, Camerata Nova, present Fallen, the second concert in a series dedicated to truth and reconciliation. To learn more about the show, I'm joined by Artistic Director of Camerata Nova, Andrew Balfour, and Conductor Mel Braun, as well as cellist Cris Derksen for a performance. Good afternoon to you all.
Hey, Simon.
Hey.
Nice to see you, man.
Well, nice to see you too. Andrew, I'd like to begin by asking you about this landmark series, which started in 2017 with the work Taken. Mm-hmm. What can you tell us about this second installment?
The second installment is addressing the perspective of remembrance, but in the Indigenous perspective of the wars that they have been taking part in. Indigenous men have taken part in every conflict of this country's history since the War of 1812, right up to present day in Afghanistan. And of course, in a couple of weeks, we will be commemorating the armistice that ended World War I. And I wanted to have a perspective of sort of Indigenous soldiers taking part in these conflicts, particularly World War I in this case. And I thought it would be, spent all summer thinking about this, but it's important sort of contribution, important perspective, an important conflict for Indigenous soldiers that they were essentially ignored when they came back from that conflict, not given benefits, having to go back on the reserve. So I wanted to write a piece about this, and we have a great collaboration with Cris Derksen and Mel leading us, and the Winnipeg Boys Choir are all sort of coming together to do a choral drama about this subject.
So we're going to get to the details further in just a minute, but the story that you've crafted here, can you tell us a little bit more about that, the key figure in the choral drama?
There are several key figures. I am going to be doing some performance art, a lot of solo work, but based around many characters rather than a linear story from A to B. I always look at it from it's an A to J and then J back to D and D, switching timelines. But a perspective, I've written a libretto, but I've also included poems by Wilfred Owen, some anonymous soldiers that talked about why I fought for this country. I went to war and sacrificed, and give us back our Sundance, give us back our Sweat Lodge. So there's many perspectives, many characters. It's a multi-character, perspective dramatic choral work.
Oh, it sounds like a very powerful work as well. Mel, I want to get you in here. What's it like to lead a performance like this?
Well, what's fun is what we've done this week. We had preparation beforehand with the choir. They know their stuff. This week is when we met Cris, and when we met Corey, and when we met the boys' choir. And so this is when we put it all together. And there was a moment on our Wednesday night rehearsal when Cris, and you'll hear this in a moment, hooked up all her electronics and started doing her thing. We thought, okay, this is what the piece is. So it's that whole thing of you prepare, and then when the final pieces get assembled, which is often in the last couple of days, then we see what the shape is. Preparation is key, and having wonderful collaborators that listen, all listening to each other and finding out how to shape it and what to make it. And then, the usual problems with balance or sight lines and all that stuff.
Yeah, the stuff that comes with it.
Fortunately, Andrew and I have been down this path before. And so you just patiently solve problems as they come up. And I think, people are going to be haunted and uplifted by this piece.
What a beautiful juxtaposition that is.
Yep.
Haunting and uplifted.
Yep.
Has it grown? I mean, this is obviously a living work that is being premiered. Has it changed in that process that you were just talking about as it all comes together?
Well, I would say, I know with the choir when we first started, a lot of Andrew's music has a combination of these really powerful sort of ostinato rhythms and then counterpoint and melodies over the top. So we were digging into all that stuff. And then the particular piece that Andrew wrote called Anthem for Doomed Youth on the Wilfred Owen poem, completely different thing. All of a sudden you've got descriptions of the stuttering guns, and you've got descriptions of the wailing of the demented in this awful conflict that World War I was. So completely different colors. So as we've done more, and as Cris has come in with, you're in Flanders Fields as soon as she starts playing. And you feel it. You feel the mud, and you feel the the horror, but at the end there's also the healing. And what Andrew's been saying all along is it's the musicians and artists that are going to lead us out of this bad patch. And so, Southern neighbors, listen hard is all I can say.
Cris, so you're over here quietly in the corner with the cello.
Yeah.
How did you get involved in this project?
Me and Andrew met like any good Indigenous artists meet. We met at a party. And I have obviously had known of Andrew's work for quite a long time before we actually got to meet. So I was thrilled to actually meet him. It was actually like a year ago at Brian's party, I think, which is actually a year ago now. So he invited me to start working on this project, and of course I jumped in at the chance and was available.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's always one big thing that it comes down to, right? I mean, you're a Juno-nominated cellist. You've collaborated a lot with a lot of different artists. Why is that important to you, collaboration?
I think it helps you grow as an artist, and I am also a composer, and it helps you grow as a composer to get out of your own head and to work with other people and see their own perspective and to see what they do. You can always learn from everyone around you, and that's true for like the Indigenous, non-Indigenous relationship too.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we're going to hear a little bit of your playing in just a little bit of your composition as well. Andrew, I want to give the last word to you here. I mean, we're talking about this process of truth and reconciliation, and Mel spoke to this briefly. What role does music play to you as not only an artistic director, but as a composer?
For me, it's my own personal journey. I basically, because I'm a 60s scooper and I was brought up in a non-Indigenous family, I'm trying to learn my heritage and trying to learn about my culture, my blood culture, through music. I'm not a dancer, I'm not a choreographer or a playwright or a novelist. I have music to tell a story. I've been saying lately that actually I'm really trying to be a storyteller. If it's abstract, so be it. It's, Beethoven was telling a story for whatever he was writing. Mozart, a lot of composers were telling their own story. So I'm journeying through music, through the instrument that I have, which is both my voice and Camerata Nova, and through Mel and through our collaborative artists. We've been really fortunate to be able to collaborate with some amazing musicians. Camerata's basic mandate is to collaborate. And we've been very successful. I think we're a very unique so-called choral ensemble because of what we're able to do. And I'm one of the most fortunate composers I know of because I have an instrument and we have an amazing organization. But this is very important for us to do, not only for our community, but for the country, in the spirit of the calls to action from the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. And music can be a powerful, powerful ally, a very powerful medium to spread the word and to have different perspectives.
I think we're thankful that you are telling your story here in Winnipeg. I think it's, it's such powerful, moving music, and how important that storytelling tradition is, and that it continue on. The last question I want to ask is, what do you hope audiences take away from the performance?
I would hope that there's a perspective, dialogue, at least thinking, and I'd be remiss to say that I also love gorgeous music, and we're actually doing a very, very rarely performed work, certainly in this choral community, of the Howells Requiem, which is a masterpiece. I think we can really, it's just a masterpiece. And I'm very happy it has a perspective that's a beautiful piece, and it's again about dealing with loss. Howells wrote it on the loss of his son, so the choir sounds amazing. So I hope that the audience can come up with great beauty, but also comes with asking questions. That's important because we're coming against to the armistice, the signing of the armistice at the end of World War I, and yet we are still fighting, and we are still destroying each other in many, many ways. So we need to continue to talk about how we stop all these conflicts.
So go. You can become a part of the dialogue this weekend. Camerata Nova in 2 performances of Fallen. Saturday, November 3rd at 7:30 p.m. Sunday, November 4th at 3 p.m. Both taking place at the Crescent Fort Rouge United Church. For more information, you can visit cameratanova.com or head to classic107.com and click on the events tab. We're going to hear some playing of Cris Derksen now. Cris, what are we going to hear?
This is actually just like a bit of an improvisation, playing around with what we have been playing around with. So it's not through composed. It's an idea.
Excellent. This is the playing of Cris Derksen in the Diamond Lane. Live in the Diamond Lane, that was the haunting, evocative playing of Cris Derksen on the cello. Cris, Mel, Andrew, thanks so much for coming in this afternoon.
Pleasure, Simon.
Awesome.
You betcha.
Pleasure seeing y'all.
From our studios in downtown Winnipeg, you've been listening to 107 Live, Classic 107's Intimate Concert Series, the soundtrack for your life.